Sean, what you got?
Greetings, Edgerenka. Greetings, viewers. The Spotlight Top News looks at expired goods being removed from the shelves of some supermarkets here in the territory. In fact, on October 9th, last Friday, the Environmental Health Division, they led a crackdown on one particular establishment, that is Bobby's Supermarket, where they removed several items from the shelves there. The items ranged from dairy to dry goods. And there have been several complaints within recent times and even before about this unfair, this careless practice among some of these establishments, mini-marts and supermarkets in the territory. And that crackdown basically revealed the truth that was behind some of these concerns and complaints that in some cases were often questioned. Now, looking at the various supplies, looking at the different items there on the screen, and you can see that it's a jeep load of items. It's not just one shopping cart, removed from that particular establishment. And the sources also say that a garbage truck was used to remove items from the Port Purcell, Her Majesty's Customs at Port Purcell as well, but we don't have any evidence to substantiate that. However, in a recent, in fact, it was last Thursday, October 8th, a one-on-one with the Premier, Dr. Orlando Smith, he responded to a question from the media when he was asked about the issue of consumer protection and so forth, and he said that his administration has been given consideration to setting up such a unit within the Department of Trade. Let's hear him.
It is something that we actually have begun to think about from last administration. Is something that I had said to my people in my ministry that we need to look at. We are now making the strengthening and deepening the remit of the Trade Department to include some more trade and investment promotion, and also there we may also be to look at the matter of trade in the territory, which includes looking at the question of consumer protection.
Now, Edgerenka, I witnessed that particular exercise on Friday, October 9th myself, and observed, the unfortunacy of that particular incident, but also the danger that it poses to consumers, and of course not just local consumers, but also the many guests, the many visitors who visit the BVI from time to time. So this is definitely a dangerous practice, but the question has to be asked of the Environmental Health Division. Is this just a one-off particular activity, or is this going to be a national crackdown? We don't know as yet, and that's one question that we would like to hear an answer to.
Well, certainly that's a good question, Sean, because I've had experiences in quite a few establishments, as you pointed out, where you have flour with Beebles in there. You have spoiled cheese. There are a lot of spoiled goods that left on the supermarket shelves, and I'm not saying that it's deliberate. I don't know that, but certainly a lot of these supermarkets have employees stacking the shelves, keeping a check of things on the shelves, and part of their job should be to make sure that the goods on the shelves are not expired or not spoiled. And the question is a good question, whether it's a continuous process of the Environmental Health Division going around from store to store, establishment to establishment, looking to see what the shelves are expired, what are spoiled, so that the consumer could have some measure of protection even without an official consumer protection agency.
And certainly, and looking at the evidence on our screen in terms of what we saw on Friday, it's a significant amount of goods. And I hear your point about workers being vigilant, but the question has to be asked, even beyond that, how are these items allowed in? Who are the people responsible? And what is the level of accountability and the responsibility of the different people along the chain? Because looking at that particular, and I was there, I watched that white pickup as it drove out of the parking lot there, packed with items, and a red one right next to it was also being packed as well. So eventually that one was also stacked with a number of rejected items as well. I didn't stay beyond that to see what took place and to really get a final count, so to speak, of the entire or the whole of the the items removed. But certainly, as I looked, I was close enough to look at some of the items, and it really makes you it raises concerns in the minds of any consumer as to the safety, and of course it makes us as consumers as well even look closer when we are shopping. For those of us who are men who tend to run in and pick up stuff and run back out the supermarkets, we would want to be much more careful.
Well, of course, and it should be within the process of the supermarket itself or the establishment itself to have a periodic check of dates and expiration dates and so on, and of goods on the shelf, and to see what is spoiled and where certain smells may be coming from,
Yes.
and be vigilant in making sure that the products that's going to the consumer is good products that is not going to make them sick. In some instances, the possibility exists that you
Yes.
could get sick from some of these spoiled goods. You could get food poisoning from some of these spoiled goods,
Yes.
and it reflects poorly on, in this particular instance,
Yes.
the food industry.
Yes.
Now, I've seen some comments, some online comments that
Yes.
made a lot of sense to me. There are food establishments.
Yes.
The
the manner in which the food is prepared and sold and so on. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that they don't have the temperature is not
gloves.
hot enough. They don't have the right freezers.
Yes.
One comment, a remark about the food vans. Some of the food vans that serve food, where one employee had on gloves and
Serving the food and cashing.
serving the food and
Yes,
cashing at
yes.
the same time with the gloves on,
Yes.
and then digging her braids, her itchy
Yes,
braids.
and we've seen all of these things. We see them from time to
Itchy
time.
braids with the gloves.
Yes.
And then wash the gloves, wash her hands with the gloves on.
Yes.
And get a dish rag that's laying
Yes,
around
yes.
and dry the gloves off and continue to handle salad.
That's
you
right.
know?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
So we see a lot of things around the country where certain procedures, certain protocols are not being followed, and we definitely need an organization to monitor these types of situations, to make sure that whatever rules and regulations that govern safety in food production and food preparation and retail sales,
Yes.
that there's some accountability and some protection for the persons that have to purchase these things, and food particularly, your life is at stake, actually.
That's right. Bear in mind as well that lawsuits can spring from these incidents, because when folks are affected, when their health is affected, bear in mind that an individual can decide to take their complaint beyond the environmental health division. Of course, once they have evidence based on medical records and so forth, or medical report, they can go to a lawyer and take a particular proprietor to the courts. Now, I don't want to, this is a very complex issue, and we don't want to single out and look for other cases where, folks have reported they have been poisoned, they have experienced food poisoning and so forth. But I know of many other establishments where the environmental health officials and other health officials have cracked down and caused them to close or to improve on certain processing that they do in terms of their food preparation and so forth. And I agree with your point that this is a national concern, and we all should take stock of it. Of course, we know that there are times and incidents where persons may overlook a particular, preparatory step and so forth. But certainly, the health of the individuals, the consumers, should be a priority, because here we are in terms of the NHI and then the health of the nation and so forth. And one can see that these are practices that can lead to major problems in terms of affecting the health of a number of people.
Yeah. But as far as the consumer is concerned, Sean, I think that there's a consumer side and the consumer responsibility as well, the responsibility themselves
Yes.
to read the labels.
Yes.
I mean,
Look for the dates.
I may look for dates, look for nutritional values. Because of my responsibility, the responsibility I take for my health, my personal responsibility as I take for my health, I read labels. I see what the contents are in some of the products that I buy, whether it's too much sugar, too much salt, artificial flavoring, artificial coloring, preservatives. I check for those things, and I check for dates, expiration dates on juices, on some of the dairy products that I buy for my family. I check to make sure that I'm getting a good product. In some instances, you can't check, and flour is one of those instances where,
Yes.
as a matter of fact, one establishment allow you to open the flour at the counter before you take it home.
Right.
Because sometimes I guess they don't believe that they are able to check themselves
Right.
to tell whether there are insects
Inside.
in the flour.
Yes.
So
because the package might look good in some cases,
Yes.
but when you actually open
Open
it,
it.
you're going to see stuff inside it.
So, as consumers, we need to take responsibility. I like to encourage us to take responsibility for our health and for the products that we buy, to make sure that they're safe, make sure that they're within the expiration date, and that they're not damaged or spoiled. And check for the boxes. The boxes are open. Some boxes are not sealed properly. Some jars are not sealed properly. You need to start checking for all those things.
And I agree. And certainly the proprietors and the employees, they ought to be even more vigilant, especially in cases where, for example, in the storage departments, the storage compartments and so forth, consumers may not see what's happening. You want to be very careful, ensure that that rodents can't access tins, because in some cases, and this is another advice to people, I'm not with the environmental health folks, but when you purchase tinned items, you ought to wash them off before you open them and so forth, because you never know what's going to happen. And it's really important that the folks involved in the storage of food, whether it's dry goods, processed food, packaged food, or what have you, pay attention, because you may be endangering the lives of innocent people.
Yes, indeed. Well, certainly that's a good report. It's a sad story because I don't like to see a business, especially a business of that magnitude, who that with a considerable amount of employees
Yes.
have challenges remaining in business.
Yes.
Because we need every business we have in the territory to succeed.
It was really a sad day down
Yeah.
there on Friday. I
Yeah.
looked on the faces, grim of the employees. They were really sad, and
Yeah, it is
a
a sad,
cause
it's
for
a sad,
concern.
it's a sad event. It's a sad
Yes.
event. People have jobs, they have their lives, they have their families to take care of, their rents to pay, and their livelihood. And this is certainly this may certainly be a big disruption for those employees, and of course a hardship for the owner. But we have to pay attention. We have to take care. And owners have to take care to serve the consumer a good product for
That's right.
for the price they're paying. It should not
right.
come to a point where the government has to step in and force you to
Yes.
provide your people with a good product and a good service. That should be something, a sacred trust that you have between your consumer, your community, and yourself and your business.
So profit should not dictate the standard of products that you offer for sale. Certainly not. And I look at a particular situation as it relates to even across the board, not just supermarkets and so forth. And again, the issue of standards, very important, and every business person, and of course employees as well, ought to take those situations into consideration and make sure you're giving quality every time.
And people need to know, businesses need to know, the better the service, the better the quality, the
Yeah.
better chance you have of getting more and more customers.
Good for business.
It's good for business.
Yes.
Sean, great report, sad report, but it's something that we need to be paying attention to more and more, and we need to see what the government, the Environment and Health agencies
Yes, who's next?
is going to do to continue to make sure
Yes.
that the consumer is protected. Thank you very much for that report.
You're welcome.